This is Jeanine, and you're listening to WCBG. WCBG is broadcasted from Wagner College in Staten Island, New York. Today's interview is with New York artist Dylan Owen. It was so nice to talk to somebody from the area and learn more about him and his music, so stay tuned for a great interview. Hello?
Hey, Jeanine, this is
Hi.
Dylan.
Hi. How are you?
Good, how are you doing?
Good, good. Thank you for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Of course, yeah, thank you for reaching out.
Of course. Super excited. And so I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself for our listeners and tell me a fun fact about you.
Cool. So, my name is Dylan Owen. I am an artist from New York. And fun fact is, I, for a little while in my life, lived in a town that only had 400 people in it. Small town in upstate New York called Circleville.
Very small. You born and raised in New York?
Yeah, born and raised in New York, upstate New York.
Nice. Upstate's so nice compared to,
Yeah,
yeah.
so nice, very peaceful.
Yeah, and there's trees. It's beautiful up there.
I know, it really is. I
I'm
love
from
it up there.
I'm from Staten Island, so
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Yeah.
What was the local scene like in upstate?
There wasn't too much of a hip hop scene, and really the music scene in general, it was, I don't know, there wasn't that much of a music scene. Like I would travel around and play open mics, and I would play cafes and coffee shops, and kind of try to like make my own thing happen at these small shows and bring out all my friends. And yeah, I don't know, that was really like the extent of it, and I think it influenced me a lot because I it encouraged me to dig for stuff on the internet that I wanted to find and get involved in. And this is way back in like the MySpace era. So I don't know, I found a lot of artists I love online, and also I was like promoting online when I was super young. So I definitely think it kind of impacted me.
I definitely understand, like on Staten Island, there really isn't a big music scene, which I find very sad because being from here. And it's kind of,
Yeah,
yeah, I don't know if it's a New York thing. I kind of feel like New York's like this stopover town and it's not as flourishing as it used to be, which is really sad.
it's tough. Yeah, I think it's hard now with the internet. It has definitely changed everything, and the idea of local scenes are kind of changing. But I think local scenes are still really important, and they can still form as long as you have the people there that are interested, and as long as people come out and are supportive of the community.
Especially because like School of Rock was filmed at my school. And you would think,
Wow,
yes,
that's crazy.
you would think it'd be a big music scene here because of like the history. And
Yeah,
yeah, there's not.
yeah. Well, that's all right. You got to just kind of like pave your own path as much as you can.
That makes sense. So, my next question for you is if you weren't doing anything related to music, what would you be doing?
It's definitely a hard question to answer. I think I would probably just be writing, like in a more formal way, trying to be an author, and um, probably struggling to get published. I think that's what I would be doing, like English and writing. That's kind of like my second love. So yeah,
Yeah, my roommate's actually an English major, so she always tells me all about the stuff they're doing.
nice.
It's very
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah, yeah, definitely. I think it. I mean, it's pretty close to my music in my mind, but I do think that's what I would try next.
I feel like writing has its own skill set involved, like to tell a type of story within writing and the description. So that's
Yeah,
yeah.
100%. It's a whole other ball game for sure. Yeah.
That leads to my next question. What's your favorite lyric that you've ever written?
That's also a tough one to choose. I might go with a lyric of mine from my song The Book Report, which is "We've all got higher hills to climb regardless of our depths." And it's a lyric that I have on stickers, and um I don't know, I always kind of quote it online and stuff in my bios. Yeah, it's just a line that I think summarizes a lot of what my music stands for.
It's a very inspirational line, and that was actually my favorite song of yours. So just
Oh,
throwing that
thank
out
you.
there.
That's awesome. I'm glad you like that.
So, what is your writing process like?
A lot of times it just starts me alone in my bedroom, and I'll make some kind of demo on keyboard or on acoustic guitar, and I'll just, write some really simple bare bones chords, and then I will have probably lines and lyrics that I've already written, just a few of them, like let's just say a few key lines, and I'll try to fit them into the demo that I'm working on. And then once I have an idea that sort of sticks, I'll contribute more lyrics to it and really try to like develop it out. And then eventually it'll get to a point where I bring it to my main producer, who's a guy named Skinny Atlas, who's based up in Middletown, New York, and he will make it sound really professional and polished and add a ton of arrangement and drums and all that stuff to it. So there's kind of like a lot of steps to it, but it basically starts with just me in my bedroom.
I love that. It's kind of like this relatability thing. I don't know. I just kind of feel like hearing that, it's more so like, wow, everything kind of starts from not like a smaller point, but like a more personal touch in a sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that sometimes that's just the best way. I love deeply personal music, and that's also, of course, what I love to create. And for me, it has to start from that like really personal, intimate place.
So what are you currently listening to?
I listen to such a variety of stuff. I'm a big fan of Bright Eyes. I like Conor Oberst's songwriting a lot. I like Phoebe Bridgers' songwriting a lot, who they've been doing some stuff together. I'm not sure if you're a fan of either of them. And then I also listen to a lot of underground hip hop. Like one of my favorite artists of all time is a rapper named Idea, and he passed away a few years ago, rest in peace. But I think he is like one of the all-time greats. I grew up listening to like everything from the Beastie Boys to Talib Kweli, to Eminem, Brother Ali. So kind of a range, but I think the common thread for me is just good lyrics and good writing and stuff that inspires me. Yeah, I find Spotify is really good for that. It has like good recommendations.
That actually leads to my next question. What is your opinion of streaming services like Spotify?
Um, I don't know. I think it is just they exist, so you have to, that's the main place I think to send people nowadays. I just think it's the way that most people consume music. But last year, I was lucky enough to get my album pressed on vinyl, and that was my first time having a vinyl release. And that was really cool for me because it's just more of like a physical keepsake, and I think it represents all the work that went into the album. And I don't know, I had a lot of fun like sending those out. And even though they're like some people would probably prefer to just stream it, like people seemed really excited about the vinyl. So I think you just need to coexist with it and, still like just not let it affect your art. I think that's what I always try to keep in mind. Like I've read some crazy things about how Spotify's influenced songs getting shorter and people, cutting out the intros from their songs and like all this stuff just to get right to the point because everybody's attention span is so short nowadays. But I think you just can't let that impact you, like just say what you want to say in your music and try to block out all that stuff and just learn how to use the services to like the best of your ability.
Do you collect vinyl?
I don't really collect it. I wish I did. My older brother does though.
I just feel like there's something special about vinyl, or even just like having a physical album. It's a very different experience than just listening. I love Spotify, not gonna lie. I do use Spotify like every day, but I do sometimes miss like throwing out the CD player.
Yeah, 100%. Something nice about not being able to just skip songs so easily and just having to sit with the music. I think that's a really good feeling.
Yeah, and I definitely think that, especially like with streaming services, you can just play the same song, but it's not the same experience as like listening to the full album and the story the artist is actually trying to tell on the album, and you're just hearing like one tiny piece of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
What is the weirdest or funniest question you've ever been asked before in an interview?
I don't know. I guess I don't get funny enough questions. I like not that much comes to mind really. Um, yeah, I don't know. I did an interview a couple weeks ago, and we were definitely laughing a lot, but I can't remember what was so funny about the questions. I don't have a good answer for you. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I normally like to ask this question before the question we ask everyone we interview. It's a question our PR director Grace came up with. What is your opinion of releasing an artist's unreleased music after they've passed away? Should it be released or should it not?
I think it should be up to their family. That's what my opinion is. I think the it definitely should not just be up to the label. It definitely should not get, released by like a manager or a business person. I think the family should decide what they want, and if the family wants a label involved to help the rollout and help it reach more people, then I think that's totally cool. But yeah, I just think it has to like line up with the family's vision.
I think that makes a lot of sense. I know it's sometimes hard because, like, as a fan, you always want to hear the music. But would the artist have been happy? Or, like, is this what they would have wanted to be released?
Yeah, it's kind of a weird feeling. There's definitely some question marks there when you hear it. It's like, I don't know. I just know that I have thousands of demos on my computer and in my email and everything that will never see the light of day. And the reason for that is there are things I want to change about them because it's not exactly what I want to communicate. So yeah, it's just I don't really want to hear like some, unfinished version that like an artist wasn't happy with. But if their family wants to release it, like out of respect of sharing their work, then I think that's amazing.
That leads to my next question. I want to talk a little bit more about your music. So, can you describe your sound for me in 3 words?
Yeah, I would say it is autobiographical. Um, it is heartfelt, and it is emotional. Yeah, I don't know if those are the three best adjectives, but the music is definitely, it's all like my real life stories. It's very personal to me, and yeah, I always try to just not hold back any of my emotions on the music.
Can you tell me a little bit about your latest single?
Yeah, definitely. So it's called We Were Only Kids Then. It just came out almost a month ago at this point. And I wanted to write, it's not about like looking back at a simpler time when we were kids. It's actually about being an adult and how everybody takes on new identities, their jobs and their careers and the things that they're pursuing. And it's about not forgetting where you come from and not forgetting that like there was a time where we were all just wide-eyed and innocent, and we didn't have any of these new identities around us. So um, that's kind of what it's about. And it was inspired by just wanting to write something a little more quickly in the moment and record and release a song. So I just wrote it over the past few months. And I know for some artists drop songs every week or whatever, but for me, I usually take like years working on the songs that I'm working on, and I just work on a batch of them at a time. So it felt cool to just work on one song, just a standalone track and release it. And I think that's going to be a theme over the next few months is doing that again. And I've been writing and recording so much the last few weeks to go along with that. So yeah, it's called We Were Only Kids Then. There's a music video on YouTube as well.
But it's kind of nice to like see things reflected. I always talk about like this relatability factor and growing up, and I think it's great to just, I don't know. It's something like it's speaking to me in the moment, you know? Yeah, I'm kind of
Yeah,
rambling.
yeah, absolutely. I'm glad. I'm glad you relate. And yeah, I don't know. Some of the songs, they're always things I'm feeling in the moment and things I stand by, but sometimes it's a song idea I got from years ago as well.
Amazing. Okay. So, my next question for you is, what is your favorite song to play live?
My favorite song is a song called Ghosts.
Okay.
And I think it's because live we're able to give it so much energy. I play live with a violinist. He's insanely talented. His name's And Gabe Valley. And he just shreds on that song. He plays the synth lines that are in the recording. And it's cool. It's just there's a chant part that we're able to do in person that isn't really in the recording in the same way. All my recordings are like pretty intimate and they have that personal feel to them. And then live, I try to make it more of like a live upbeat experience. So I love Ghosts because it can go from this personal record to this group fun thing. and it's always one of my favorites to play live.
What is your favorite venue that you've ever played in?
I think favorite venue. I loved playing at Arlene's Grocery in New York City last year for my album release show. That was a super cool venue because they were like the sweetest people ever. They got us a cake for selling out the show, and they brought it backstage and they wrote a card, and I don't know, it was just so nice. It was like such a nice welcome and such a nice way to like launch the album. But my favorite show I've ever done though is probably up in Ithaca, New York at the Ithaca State Theater, where I opened for Mac Miller like years and years ago. And I always reference it as my favorite show because it was just like wild crowd. It was right when Mac Miller was kind of blowing up on like a national level. And it was so packed and crowded and sweaty in there that the fire alarm ended up going off and they like shut down the show halfway through. So I don't know, it's just like great memories.
What is your favorite state that you've ever been to?
Oh, that's a tough one too. I think I would maybe have to go with Colorado.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if you've been out there.
I have not left the East Coast. Let's preface it
Okay,
that way.
gotcha. Yeah, I think I might have to go with Colorado. A lot of my music ties back to Colorado, and it's just a beautiful place. The people there are so supportive, and they're all so chill. Like they just have a different vibe than us East Coast people, and you will see what I mean if you ever go out there.
My next question for you is: do you have any pre-show rituals or superstitions that you do before you perform?
I like to have like a few moments of just, peace to myself before I actually start playing. Normally, because my home music is like it's a very DIY operation. It's just me and my friends running it. So usually at the shows and on show days, I'm running around so much. Printing out flyers or whatever I'm doing, setting up the merch and dealing with stuff with the venue, sending last minute emails, getting a photographer locked in, like so many things. So usually I try to at least just take like 20 minutes before I go on stage and just get in the zone. I always want to make sure I'm like connected to the music when I'm out there performing it.
So, my next question for you is: what is one thing you would change about the music industry as it is today?
I think I would change that. I wish there were just no barriers at all to being able for any artist to get their music heard. I think that's probably the most frustrating thing for artists is just feeling like no one out there is listening. And I do think it's totally possible for people to listen nowadays without a big company behind you, but I do still think there's that power to having a huge company promote you. And yeah, I just wish there was a little more of an even playing field. But I think it's getting better every day, so that's a good thing.
My next question for you is: what do you do when you're not writing music?
I read, I take photos. I just got a film camera and been like taking really, really bad film photos for the first time. And I just kind of hang out with friends. I hang out with a lot of old friends, hometown friends. We explore places in the city, go out to eat, and also I do a lot of family stuff too. I go upstate, help my family with whatever they need up there. Um, so yeah, a whole bunch of different things. Probably, pretty boring life outside of the music.
You mentioned you like to read. What's your favorite book?
Favorite book of all time? I think I'd have to go with The Outsiders by S.E. Hinton.
Nice.
It's like a book everybody reads in middle school, high school, but I love it. Just connected with me a lot as a kid, and then I read all of S.E. Hinton's other books. I also love Siddhartha um, by Herman Hesse, and that led me to read all of his books as well.
Nice. Oh, when you're going on a road trip, what are three songs that you would have to absolutely have on your playlist?
I think I would go with um, maybe Something Vague by Bright Eyes,
Mm-hmm.
Welcome Home by Radical Face, and then I might go with Respiration by Black Star.
Okay, we have some Spitfire questions before I get to the final question.
Okay,
Okay, ready?
hit me.
Okay. Favorite color?
Blue.
Okay. Favorite type of food?
Chicken farm.
If you could go any place in the world, where would you go and why?
I think I would go to Switzerland because the mountains look so beautiful and I wanna experience that.
Favorite movie?
Garden State, probably. Maybe Into the Wild.
Nice. Okay, and then our final question. What
Okay.
are your goals for 2020?
My goals are just to release way more music and hopefully go on tour, even if it's a small tour of like 5 to 10 dates.
Amazing. Okay.
Yeah, I want to release a lot more music though.
Awesome. Well, I know the staff and I are excited to see what you do in the new decade.
Oh, thank you. I'm very excited to hear what you all think.
And I greatly appreciate you taking your time out of the day to talk to me.
Of course, yeah. Thank you for having me on.
Of course, it was really awesome to talk to somebody from New York.
Yeah, yeah,
That doesn't
100%.
happen
We
frequently.
we got to hold it down for New York.
Yes.
Thank you again for reaching out.
Of course. I hope you have a great day.
All right, you too. Have a good one.
You
Good
too.
talking to you.
Bye.
Bye.
Again, that was Dylan Owen. If you really enjoyed today's interview, please stay tuned for some of his tracks and check out his music.